So we all are seeing a digital revolution around us, and I'm sure each one of you must be experiencing the impact of this change in your teams, projects, or organizations. And which means that you need right strategies and solutions to evolve quickly to meet this pace of change. And today's session is uh, focused on the trends, strategies, and solutions in this era of mobile first or mobile everything. And I'm extremely delighted to welcome our guest speaker from Forrester. I have with me Diego, who is Vice President and Principal Analyst at Forrester. He has close to 28 years of experience, and he contributes to and advises on Forrester's offering on app development and delivery. Moreover, he is one of the known experts on SDLC processes and practices. So without taking much of your time, I'll ask Diego to start the session. So Diego will take up the trends and strategies for a mobile enterprise. And I'll be taking up a quick walkthrough of the solution that we have towards the end of this session. So Diego, over to you. I'm making you the presenter.
Thank you very much, Avinash, and good morning, good afternoon, depending where you are in the world.
You can see the slides, Diego.
Wonderful. All right, great. So first of all, Avinash, thanks for having me, and I also would like to thank everyone who's on the line that's spending some of their time to listen to us. I'm going to be sharing some of the research in this very trendy area. Based on my testing and agile coverage. So just a quick background. I mean, I don't think I need to remind anyone, but we know that digital is basically accelerating. We are just at the start, still at the starting phase, although it's been going on for 5 years. I would say we still have another 10 years of digital transformations that everybody is trying to, aggressively move towards. And what this means is really that lots of teams are trying to change their touch points, the way they service customers, the apps that they offer to customers. But, changing touch points, it might sound simple and something at the surface, but actually has some very in-depth consequences, right? It's got, it comes with changing operating models. It comes with impact on the back-end systems, but also with mobile and with all these new technologies that customers are experimenting with day in, day out, it just becomes even more interesting, I would say, more engaging with the type of apps that we can build. But again, things have to change in order to create those digital experiences. And things have changed. You can see that the way mobile apps are being built have kind of changed the way we think about development. Definitely has to be agile. It has to be kind of hypothesis driven. We want to drive some new experiences, new ideas, and test them quickly, test them in all senses, putting them out and deploying them. And especially what mobile has changed is this idea down here of measuring and analyzing and sensing, right, what their applications are actually, how they're being perceived, right? Once you launch these apps on mobile phones, you can get feedback. You get feedback from users. You get feedback through the app itself. There's feedback on social. There's this very relevant feedback loop that really allows us to kind of respond to changes, respond to what's being sensed out there in the market once you deploy these new applications. And so mobile development and the, Agile and DevOps, as you will see, are all kind of ways to support these new ways of working. And yes, I think what we all mostly hear about, and I guess there's no there is no second thoughts about this, is business wants speed. They want these applications, these mobile apps to be delivered fast, these experiences to be delivered fast. But don't get, let's not kid ourselves. It's not just speed. It's really speed with quality. Who wants a 4-star or a 3-star application? When you go and you choose your app that you want to download and you want to run with, it has to be 5 stars. At least that's what I aim to, right? Unless I'm forced to get a 3-star or a 4-star, but I try to avoid if I can. And so I like this metaphor of the Formula One, where speed does not necessarily have to compete with quality. In other words, these guys have made quality part of the strategy to win the race by bringing down, changing 4 wheels in 2.1, actually 1.9 seconds, I should say, recently, thanks to Red Bull, in changing 4 wheels in less than 2 seconds from 10 seconds. Mindset of how testers should be thinking about quality, right? It can't be an afterthought anymore. It has to be embedded in early on, right? That's what this is meaning. It's meaning that quality is a problem of all. There's a team of people working together to achieve those, levels of quality that that don't necessarily compromise speed. That's why I talk a lot about quality at speed, and so, speed comes in and quality comes in various forms, of course. With mobile, I guess the biggest form that we all want to enjoy is having a great experience, right? So user interface definitely is a big thing here. Experience has to be engaging. It has to be fun. What the application is doing has to be useful, and but also at the same time, it has to perform, right? I mean, we all get frustrated when that little icon comes on your phone and you don't know what's going to be happening, after it actually, if it comes back, and you don't have to kind of turn on and off the phone again. And if it does come back, you don't know what happened to maybe the transaction or what you were doing with the application. And so, performance also contributes to your customer experience, to your experience in using the phone. Now, with mobile, of course, we have some additional challenges compared to when the world didn't have mobile phones around. And this is just showing the huge amount of different device models that you might be challenged, by testing on. You don't know your customers around the world, which ones they're using. They could be using many of these. They could be using some of them. They might be using also different versions of the operating systems. They might even be using different web browsers and versions of web browsers. Now, if you combine all that together, the numbers can be quite staggering. This is not an easy problem to solve, and it definitely, you can't solve it manually, and you have to solve it in a way that you can do a lot of course, reuse and leverage, because otherwise it will take forever, and testing will really, will be kind of confined into some final step, if ever done. And so, and teams are kind of, organizing, of course, for this. Here's some data that shows how teams in 2017 have been testing mobile websites and mobile web applications against their devices. There's a tactical approach of using, employees' own devices. I think this number is quite high, but this probably also reflects some of the crowdsource testing that system integrators do, and by you leveraging their resources. And there's very large system integrators, the Wipros, the TCSs, the Infosys, the Tech Mahindras, and so forth, that have lots of resources that can be doing this, and they offer testing services, of course. And then you've got a less tactical but still tactical use of an on-site library of physical devices to test again. But the two biggest ones, I would say, are, and the growing trend I see on the between the service to service or emulation to test mobile in an emulated way, versus 56%, which is the biggest number here, on using a cloud and with real devices attached to the cloud. And despite all that, of course, automation, as you saw, I guess, especially in the mobile world, is becoming more and more prevalent. We can't just do manual testing. But in general, this is, about developers that do general development, mobile and non-mobile. There is not a lot of automation going on, at least not enough, I would say. Some developers still do only partial unit testing. Now, maybe that could be a good thing if we knew that they were doing risk-based unit testing. In other words, they would make sure that they're testing, the unit testing the most and riskiest areas of their code. But I'm not sure that's what's going on. So that number should be higher anyway. And functional-based testing, UI-led testing is 15%. API testing is quite low. This is something that we really need to fix, I think, especially if we want to be more successful with mobile testing in an agile world, right? So what do some of the leading organizations do, and what I recommend you guys do if you are in this aggressive journey of transitioning towards digital? Well, first thing is QA has to, it has been slowly moving into the development, but you have to have your developers, or you have to have your testers be more development driven. In other words, they have to know about development. They have to know about languages, programming languages. Some of them might even be coders, but in order to automate more, they have to go beyond the user interface and do, API testing, become more technical. You can see this is starting to happen here. You can see that more than 20% are spending, over between 1 and 4 hours of writing new test automation code, or they're spending. The number goes up if you look at the testing new code. Up to 40%, 44% are testing new code daily, right? This is spending more than between 1 to 4 hours every day on testing. So this is a trend that has to definitely increase and move on, but it's started, and I don't think it's going to stop. What I also predicted some years ago, especially when I started writing about Agile, was and based on what I was seeing, large customers like Lloyd's Banking having years ago a huge testing center of excellence, and then squeezing that down to a much smaller group, and many others have followed that paradigm, is going from a centralized testing center of excellence that kind of performed all the testing, right? So at the upper part of this picture, down to more of a federated concept where you've got a centralized practice center with fewer experts, fewer automation designs or QA engineers, as people would call them, or maybe some performance integration lab experts, but most of the testing moving down inside the teams, right? Testing happening in sprints, basically, in other words. And that's been a trend that has been going on for 4 years at least, I would say. And so what's happening is that you're getting testers dedicated, allocated directly into development teams, and you have a smart group of a centralized service team, which could be physical or could be virtual, but it's supporting those teams in being successful. And they might be choosing the tools to use, they might be coming up with patterns and to design patterns to increase the level of automation and so forth. And those are kind of shared across a number of teams. And you don't have to take my word for this, but you can see the numbers. I've been monitoring this, and this is from my last Global Agile Survey, 2017, that when I ask specific questions around how they're organized, 64% would agree that testers are members of an integrated delivery team, and 51% would say that they are also allocated full-time to project teams. So that means they're doing one project at a time. They're in, the one product development, they're inside the Scrum team as a first-class citizen. So that's a good news for testers, because they're part of that Scrum team or Agile team together with developers and other types of roles. The other thing is organizations that are being, again, supporting digital transformation. We know that successful digital transformation requires very good software delivery practices, very strong delivery practices. You have to be excellent at building, designing, building, integrating, testing software and applications. And so, you know, if that's the case, what is there around that can make that happen? Well, it's been agile for some years, but recently we know in the last 2-3 years, DevOps has been picking up and is still early days, but it is picking up. But you can see that from these numbers that actually when you're doing just agile, those that are doing just agile are claiming, you know, are benefiting less from those that are doing both agile and DevOps. And even in the quality space, you can see how really interesting these numbers are in terms of improved technical quality goes from 29% to 72% if you're doing agile plus DevOps versus doing agile alone. Or improved functional quality goes from 47 to 72%. And, you know, well, there's a lot of implications on why this is happening, and the practices, the automation levels that DevOps brings, the fact that people are checking code every day, integrating into a single trunk, integrating, you know, more and more, and testing that integration. So that's what I think justifies these increase in the numbers in doing agile alone or doing agile plus DevOps. And some, you know, when I talk to some clients and organizations, they say, well, it's kind of obvious that if you're doing DevOps, you're doing agile. Well, I would say pay attention to what your teams are doing, because it isn't that obvious. And I have bumped into organizations where they have two separate initiatives for agile and DevOps. Agile is seen as something that the development teams are doing, and DevOps is seen sometimes as something of the ops folks. But really what we're talking about is a joint initiative, and testing is right in the middle of all that. Another important trend and thing, you know, that you should do if you want to be successful with mobile development and testing is, and in an agile world, is having dedicated cross-functional teams, cross-functional or integrated product teams with a product owner from the business, and having, you know, this mixed team of developers and QAs and lead architects, all dedicated into that team, with also some external roles that are going in and out and supporting these folks to be successful. Examples are, of course, you might have some ops folks involved so that they know, you know, what type of capacity, what type of agile infrastructure they need to put in place to support these teams. You might have the testers inside the teams, but the guys that provision maybe a cloud device environment, which might be centralized, but the team has to make sure that they get access to all that infrastructure and services in a self-service way. But it's really these cross-functional teams that are kind of the pulsing heart of any digital-oriented, delivery organization. The other important thing is that how do we increase the level of automation? Well, we need to we have to make the shift of increasing the amount of API testing versus the level of UI-led type of automation testing. And, you know, this really, you know, these are kind of some aspirational numbers, but today, most of it is basically manual. 60 to 80% or even more is manual testing. We have to invert that and make that automated. And to make that automated, we do need to increase the way we do we organize our automation testing. We have to be more architectural driven in doing that automation testing. Record and replay and automated UI level tests are not enough, right? We need to go beyond the UI because the architecture of the applications are more distributed. We've got web services, you've got containers, you've got serverless that is coming, and you can't just test the front end of your application if the back end, if the problems are in the back end. And so there needs to be some connection there, and there needs to be broader understanding of what's going on, but it can't be done manually. It has to be done in an automated way. What that means is really, what this really means is automating through, basically having developers, developers and testers that kind of go beyond that user interface, right? This is exactly what I was getting at a minute ago, and being able to automate through the stack. So we hear, we hear more and more about full stack developers, for example, that or full stack testers that can actually achieve this. The last thing, let's say before an ultimate point around some newer trends on testing is testing with continuous delivery. That is, if you're trying to use continuous delivery, you can't, you're kind of obliged to do continuous testing, because it's like you're in the middle of all this. You're working with the developers, you're working with delivery, you're inside the process, and if you if you don't automate, if you don't test continuously, you're going to basically be slowing down the effect is going to be a slowdown on the overall delivery time. And so continuous testing is kind of a must, because it has to support continuous delivery, and continuous delivery is where everybody's trying to go to be able to deliver in smaller chunks and more frequently. And so what happens is testing happens basically along the entire life cycle, during ideation planning, during the build time, during the continuous integration, which kicks off all the tests, unit testing, functional testing, non-functional testing, even performance testing done within sprints, automated. And you have to also deploy and automate releases. So you want to have a release that is a good candidate, but to be a good candidate and automate the fact that it is a good candidate and then have it deploy in an automated way, you have to have automated functional tests so that the system can make that decision based on data, right? And then you've got also to consider in the continuous testing the feedback, things like A/B testing, perhaps, or collecting feedback from what's going on into production, and embedding that back into the quality of what's being built. And so continuous testing is, really a capability of people, process, and technology. And in any delivery pipeline, you're going to have features that are going to be deployed and have to be tested on mobile, are going to be tested on web, are going to be tested on thick clients, perhaps. Nobody just has a mobile phone as their target deployment world. It's a mixed, heterogeneous world, right, with lots of different types of devices. And continuous testing has to address all of that. And last comes the new, let's say, frontier, which is using AI and artificial intelligence, and especially machine learning, to improve the way we test. I ran this, I developed this research about a year ago, end of 2016. 2017 was when it actually really, last 6 months, the download has been growing dramatically. And this is a heat map that you can see here, which shows that companies, experts, system integrators, vendors are planning on using AI more and more in the test phase. Test is, of course, you'll have the Microsofts of the world, or the Googles, and some other of these big vendors, IBMs, maybe introducing AI also in other steps of the software development lifecycle. But testing seems to be the red hot area where there's high interest to apply artificial intelligence. And the number of things, there's a number of use cases that people are looking at that AI can really help with, which is, okay, I just said we have to automate more. Well, yes, we do have to automate more, but maybe we also have to automate smarter. In other words, do I have to automate everything? Are there test cases that maybe are not those at high risk that I could avoid testing more with? Can I find out maybe what I can better test next based on what I have? And if you've got data, and which you if you don't, you can collect. But if you with the amount of data that teams generate, with all the projects that have been going on, and that you can start collecting, log files, data from Jira, if you're using Jira as a source code, as a repository, source code repositories, and project management type of data, all this data and testing data, test cases that pass, test cases that don't pass, which test cases are provisioned, all that data can be given into input to machine learning, to modeled algorithms that can start making some really interesting correlations and give some really good feedback on, what to test next, or maybe finding out that there are redundant test cases in a big regression test suite, or help identifying bugs, potential bugs that would come out based on what's been developed so far, the team members that are, how they did this in the past. There's also better testing that can be done if you use deep learning for image recognition, much more precise than machine learning or traditional OCR type of technology. Predict maybe outcomes of future tests, or how you could, what would be the effect of automating certain test cases, and how would that impact the percentage of automation and the speed of automation, perhaps. So, I'm seeing a lot of very interesting use cases that both the vendors and vendors like pCloud or pCloudy or other tool vendors are starting to put into their plans, and system integrators also are using these to optimize the way they test, but also to optimize the services that they provide to clients. So I think this is my last slide. This is my last slide, by the way, but I think this is going to be an explosive area in 2018, and I kicked off some more research in this space. It's a new stream of research that I'm going to be accelerating in, because I think there's there really is a lot of opportunity for all types of testing, mobile, non-mobile, thanks to AI. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Avinash. Thank you very much, and sorry for the initial little problem we had.
Thanks, Diego. Thank you so much, Diego, for the insightful session. Quality at speed is something we follow as philosophy, and the solution that we have built is completely built on the philosophy that you just mentioned, quality at speed. So I'll be now taking over, and I'll be taking you through a quick walkthrough of the solution that we have, pCloudy.com. So let me begin by a quick introduction of the solution that we have, known as pCloudy.com. So at the core of it, the solution is device cloud, or it can be also called app testing platform. The solution is designed to test all kind of mobile applications, be it native, hybrid, mobile web, or PWAs, which are new trends in the app space. It covers all kind of testing need that you might have for your apps. Manual testing, we have device analytics, which Diego was talking about. How do we decide on number of devices, number of right devices for testing, inbuilt test automation, and finally in-field UX testing experience. So Diego also mentioned about getting feedback from the market, A/B testing. So all that can be done through the in-field testing service that we provide. And with the four kind of testing activity that you can do, we are one of the few players in the market to give you this kind of life cycle app testing experience on the platform. Now, as a user, the platform or the device cloud can be accessed in two modes. One is through the web interface, which means you just need a browser to access the platform. And second is we have developed a lot of plugins for developers, as well as, if I can say, DevOps. So these plugins are like Android Studio, Xcode, Eclipse, Jenkins, to allow users to access our platform within their tool sets. So it could be development environment, it could be your build management systems, it could be your test management systems. So two modes, web and plugins, using which the platform can be accessed. The platform that we are talking about is available across various flavors. And one of the popular flavor that we have is public cloud, where one can use 500 plus real devices. And we are one of the world's largest device cloud. And one of the unique point is we have widest variety of devices on the platform. So starting from the popular ones like Samsung's or Apple's, to even phones from China market like Xiaomi's or OnePlus. We have real SIMs available within the phone, so you can test your applications with real networks. And we also have the phones distributed across 4 locations: India, US, Philippines, and Australia, which means you can test your apps on the local regional devices on local networks as well. So apart from the public cloud, we also have 2 other flavors of the platform. We call it private cloud, which means we can create a dedicated instance for a customer, so that customers can access the devices 24/7 in a completely secured environment. And last is the on-premise cloud, where the complete platform can be deployed within your organization premise. So let's say if you have already invested in devices and you have teams located across various locations, you can create a cloud within your organization premises and then give your teams access of the cloud or the device infrastructure. And it is within your secure boundary, so you can give access to the teams the way you want, or the way you want to control. So with this quick intro, moving on to where does the solution fit in the app test lifecycle. So we have categorized into 3 different phases. One is the pre-testing phase, where you plan your testing, and one of the key planning that happens is how many devices that we need for testing of the application, and it is based on various parameters like market or the user segment, etc. So that's the first stage. The second stage is where the development and testing happens in parallel, especially in the Agile and DevOps mode. So you do your manual testing, you require devices for debugging, you want to automate your tests, run your tests on parallel devices, and then integrate the system with CI and create continuous integration deliveries. And last is where the pre-launch stage comes, where you want to take the feedback from the users, where you want to involve real crowd users to get the feedback before you launch the product in the market. So these are the 3 different phases where our solution can fit. And I'm going to give you a glimpse of what we have, considering the time that we have for this session. I'll not be able to cover all the features that we have, but I'll try to give you a glimpse of what the solution offers in the complete life cycle, and also emphasizing the theme that Diego talked about, quality at speed. So let me begin with the first step that you can take with the product, which is pre-testing stage, where you want to figure out how many devices that I need for testing. So if you log into the platform, we have something called Device Planner, which gives you a real-time data of popular devices or market penetration of a specific device across the global geography. So as you can see here in this slide, we have selected India as a country, and I have selected my target market segment as 25%, and I can get the list of those devices which will cover 25% of my market segment. And if you can see in slightly more detail, so Xiaomi Redmi 3S has the top market segment in India. So if I have to plan my testing, I should first test it on Xiaomi Redmi 3S if my app is designed for India. Similar analytics is available for all the countries. So this is a real-time data. If you check it next week, probably this data will change. So it's a real-time data that we are collecting from the market, and we have done some partnership with analytics companies to give us this data, which is a very, very important step for you to plan your right testing so that you're not missing on your test coverage. That's the first part of it. Now that you have figured out what devices should I plan for testing, the platform gives you, as I said earlier, widest variety of devices, widest variety of real devices. So all that data is available at one single place within the platform, and we call it remote access. So as you can see in this slide, we have a variety of devices available on the platform, and those devices can be filtered based on your criteria like operating system, manufacturer, screen size, network availability, or location of the device. Devices, on this page, you can see the summary of the devices or the complete information of the device before you start testing on a particular device. You can also book a device right from here. So let's say I find my device and I want to book it for a long duration for a future need. I can do that right away. I can specify the time and the duration for which I want to book this device for. And all the booked devices will be available then in my book devices section, where I can either cancel the booking or start the testing. So let's say I find a device and I want to start using it for my manual testing. I think that's the first step which happens when you start your app testing. So we just need to click on the connect button, which is the cloud-like icon that we have on the platform. So once you click on the cloud icon here, it takes you to a new page, which we call it device interaction page, which you can see it right now. So this device interaction page is the place where you have all the tools required for your manual app testing, along with the device. So let's just start with the basic step of installing an application. So I click on install. It takes me to a drive where I have already uploaded my application files. It could be APK, IPAs, or my test data files. And I select any application from here and say install. The app gets installed on the device. So here right now, we have installed a Note application, which is a sample Note application by us. Not only applications, you can also test your mobile web applications by clicking on the web URL on the left side of the pane. You can just enter your URL and then provide the or select the right browsers and then say launch. Once that is done, the URL will open in the device in the browser that you just selected, and you can pretty much perform all the operations on this web page inside the device, test it for orientations, or you can execute any test case that you have for the web page or the website or the web application. So, I mean, this is a very simple example of how you can test your application or a mobile web application on a device. There are, as I said, there are various other various tools available on this screen to help you do your testing much faster and to give you right set of data to analyze if there are any bugs. So in the left side and in the middle of the screen, you see various options, which are basically the tools available for your testing. So you have tools like Chrome debugger. So if you are using a mobile web application, you can use Chrome debugger in parallel. You can change the location of the device for your location-aware apps. You have a network simulator option. You can fire your ADB commands. You can toggle between Wi-Fi and 3G, 4G on the device. So every use case that you require during app testing is available on a single click on the platform. In the middle of the screen, you see various options like screenshots, sending text as keyboard, rotating the screen, gestures. So pretty much what you need to do on a real device is available on a single click. Not only that, you can also track the performance of the application while you are testing on the device. So you can track your memory usage, CPU usage, network, battery performance while you are testing your applications on the device. You can also capture the logs while you are testing, and these logs are available as part of reports as well. So again, pretty much all the tools are available on a single click. You can change the session name for better traceability. Now, the platform also provides a collaboration. So while I'm testing my app, one of the key things that I'm looking at is there any bug on the application? So we talked about logs and performance, but apart from that, there are a lot of functional bugs that we find out on the application, and we want to take screenshots. So we take this screenshots. The screenshot is available then and there in the same screen here, and I can edit the screenshot, mark the bug that I find on the application in the device, save it back, and then log a bug. Now, the log a bug can be within Jira or the other tools, but from the same screen while you are testing, you can take these steps of screenshots, editing it, and logging a bug directly in your bug management tools. So this then brings a two collaboration between the tests and devs, the testing tool and the bug management tool, or the application lifecycle management tools. Not only that, we just saw testing on one device, but we have gone beyond, again, with the philosophy of quality at speed, where you can test it on multiple devices together. And this is one of the revolutionary features that we have just come up with, where you can perform action on one device and the action is replicated on other devices in real time. So I installed an application on one device, and I can see that same application on other two devices in the multi-view. And if I perform some operation here, like clicked on login, and the same operation is replicated in other two devices. So we have seen this kind of operation in case of automation, that you have to write script and then run it on multiple devices. But here, while you are doing your manual test, you can see the actions getting replicated on another set of devices. So just imagine the time that you'll save during your testing. And it also enables you to compare the results on various devices in one single view. So it not only saves your execution time, it also saves your analysis time. Moving on, once the testing is done, we have the reports, comprehensive reports at one single place. So within the report section, you can see we have reports for your manual sessions as well as your automation sessions like Calabash, Appium, etc. But let's just look at one of the report. Now, reports are available in a very, very detailed format. So as you can see, you have the details in terms of when was the test starting, when did it complete, and the other sets of data like what happened, what was the battery consumption of the application on the device. If you just scroll down and see the other details in the report, you can see other sets of data like network, CPU, memory, and also all the screenshots that you took during your app testing session. It also has the full video recording as well as the logs available within the reports itself, which you can download and log it within your bug reports, or you can share this report with the teams. After the report, so this was all about the manual testing. Now moving on to one of the important pieces of the mobile app testing, which is automation. Now the platform has full-scale capability to run your automation scripts on devices in parallel. And as you can see in this tab, which is Automator, we also call it Test Scheduler. We support various tools like Monkey, Espresso, Robotium, Calabash, Appium, where you can run your scripts on multiple devices together by just going through these steps which are mentioned. It hardly takes a couple of minutes to start executing your scripts on multiple devices together. Now, the platform also has an inbuilt capability to create your automation script. So what we just saw was you can use the open source tools. You can write your scripts there and execute it on pCloudy. But pCloudy also has the capability to give you test automation creation capability, where we have the automation studio inbuilt. We call it OpKey. Now, once you click on this tab, launch and start working with OpKey, it takes you to a different screen where you have the full access of the pCloudy device, and you can start doing your recording, or you can do a spy on the device and the application. So you just need to start. You just need to start performing your navigations on the application, and all the recordings will be captured within the Automation Studio interface. So here you can see there is a step recorded click button, and all the details of that step is available at the bottom. And once the recording is done, you are back to the Automation Studio interface, where you can see the scripts recorded. And the script is a completely codeless script. So whatever you recorded on the application is available in form of keyword-driven scripts. However, I mean, the Automation Studio interface provides you all the capability to enhance this test case. You can insert your own logic, you can data drive. So everything that you need to scale up your automation script is available within the interface. But the best part of the interface is to be able to run the scripts on multiple devices together then and there. So I just clicked on the execution, and then it takes me to an interface where I can just select all the devices from the cloud, and I can select any number of devices and just say run, which means it will run all the scripts in parallel on all the devices, and I'll get back the results once the execution is complete. And I can also monitor the execution in real time. So I'm not going into that detail right now. But the best part, one of the key benefits of Automation Studio is for Appium users. So for example, you already have your Appium scripts ready and you want to enhance those. You can use the Automation Studio here to record your scripts and then export it to your Appium Java format. So whatever recording that I do through the steps that we saw can be exported in form of Java, and you can just copy paste that within your Appium framework, and you can start executing that either on your local device or on pCloudy devices as you wish. So this really improves the speed of automation creation significantly. It gives you capability to record your scripts, debug your scripts by using the spy feature within the Automation Studio interface. If there is a failure on a specific device, you can go and do the detailed analysis. So all that is available at just one single click. One of the big changes that we did, and as Diego mentioned, was use of AI within the testing phase itself. So we launched a module called Certifier, which is our AI-based engine to allow users to do their app certification. So if you look at this interface, it's a very, very simple interface where it just asks you to select your app. Let's say I selected this app, bms.apk. Once the app is selected, I just need to provide certain app credentials, like if it's needed within the application, like username, password. I can add as many test data depending on the need of the application. So I just added one field location, and I can provide that value. So once this is done, I just need to run. I just need to start the session by clicking on Run button here, and the engine will do all the testing on its own. So you're not writing any script. You're not teaching this engine any flow of your application. It will navigate through the flow on its own, and it will perform the testing. Once that is done, you get a comprehensive report. So let me just open a live report for you. So this is one of the report generated on the same application, bms.apk. APK. I'm sorry. So this report that you see here has data around your app, CPU parameters, memory parameters, battery parameters, network parameters. And the test has been run on almost 10 devices here. So you can see the parameters detail across various devices. And this can be configured in terms of number of devices that you can choose. Now you can go inside the device level detail to see what exactly happened on a specific device. And on this device, you can see the full data of the run that was done. So for the complete session, which was run by the AI engine, the battery charge, the memory chart, how the data is changing across various scenarios. So you can see all this data, and you can also see the full snapshots taken during this flow. So through the snapshot, you can see what all scenarios were executed by the AI bot. Of course, this bot is evolving, so you might see certain scenarios which are missed right now, but it's learning on its own and it improves with every cycle. And it has all the other sets of data like logs and scenarios. So this bot can enable you to get quick feedback on your applications as soon as you make any change. And especially in a DevOps environment, when you make any change, you require to test it immediately and provide the feedback. And that's what this bot takes care of. And as this bot becomes more intelligent, you will see the test coverage getting increased on your applications. But you can just try and see what it does for you. So I'll come back to the last part of my discussion. So with this thought, where we have designed the platform with a philosophy of quality at speed, we allow you to do a full life cycle testing, starting from manual to automated tests, crowd testing, as well as in bot testing in a completely DevOps environment with full integration with your existing systems. I'll close the session right now, and I'll open it for question and answer. So please feel free to just let us know what you feel about the session, and if you want to ask me or Diego any question, feel free to just put that in the chat window. So so there is a question here. This is related to the tool. Do you have all the popular devices which are present in the market? So yes, as I mentioned in the beginning, we have more than 500 devices, and we have ensured that we cover the wide spectrum of the devices which are needed by the customers. So yes, you can just go and explore and see the variety of devices that we have. There is a question around AI. So Diego, probably you'll have to take that. The question is the role of AI in testing, and what kind of trends do you see within enterprises? Diego, a question for you.
Okay, sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, sorry. So Diego? Yeah, and I was saying that. Yeah, do you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
So yeah, I was just saying that you know, most of the use cases that you saw are 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 the use cases that that clients are using. A little bit, if you want, it's a little bit of a push, right? Because clients are not necessarily aware what you can do with AI differently than from what you can do with non-AI. I mean, very interesting, the example that you showed. Correct me if I'm wrong, it sounded like very, you know, like a bot that was doing mostly how the device is performing.
Yes.
And it's all there, right? That's cool. I guess I guess the areas where AI can be used is also in the strategy on what to test and what not to test. So therefore, not necessarily replacing testers, but more augmenting testers, providing them insights that they can't see by themselves, right? When you've got, if you think about, you know, very large testing suites and big testing activities, it's, no human can really make sense of all the data as a computer can, and especially a neural network or a machine learning algorithm can. So the trend I'm seeing is more a support, a support, an augmentation of testers, so that they can do more in less time and better in less time.
Yeah, absolutely agreed, Diego. I mean, it's all about augmenting the capability of the testers, and that's also the objective of Certifier that we have built. So we'll take a couple of more questions because we have exceeded the time. One quick question again for you, Diego. What is your view on best fit tools for only mobile, or tools which gives all the capabilities, where mobile and all in one kind of tools?
Right. Well, I think the trend that we're seeing is that a few years ago, it was mostly mobile only, and people thought mobile only and mobile first. The trend I'm seeing these days at the enterprise level is mobile first is definitely the right way to go. Mobile only is not happening. I mean, it's not happening, at least with the speed that people thought, but I don't think it will ever happen, because there's always going to be lots of new interesting devices coming. And when you look at the, you know, organizations delivering enterprise applications and software, that software is going to run on different types of heterogeneous endpoints, which can be, you know, IoT, can be mobile, but they also will be still desktops. They can be web browsers. And so I'm seeing a trend of the world of development is becoming more complex, but clients would like to have, you know, less tools to deal with. And so testing, I think what's happening is that, you know, you will be adding more browser functionality so that browser testing can be done. That's how, you know, I think that's going to be the future trend. It's trying to have one tool to kind of, from a testing perspective, where you can do most of the work. And definitely the other trend is to have, you know, device cloud, as you showed, because that's seems to be a growing trend, whether, you know, physical or emulated. You can see the numbers there are kind of leaning more towards physical, less towards and slightly less towards non-physical or emulated. And so I think that's kind of that's kind of where I see, you know, it's about testing digital experiences, I think, more than separating between mobile and non-mobile.
Thank you so much, Diego. So we'll take one more last question. So the question is around, do we have any trial available? So yes, you can just go to www.pcloudy.com and register for a free trial. You'll be able to access most of the features in a free trial, but there are certain features which are restricted, like Automation Studio and the multi-view testing that I showcased. But you can request us, and we'll be happy to give you access of the full platform. So with this last question, we'll close the session. Some of the questions that we could not answer, we'll get back to you over email. We'll try to answer that individually. Thank you so much for your time and patience. Thanks, Diego, for participating in this webinar. Hope the audience got the trends, and they will be able to utilize some of the insights that you gave. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you too. Thank you, everybody.